everyone. Have you ever gotten yourself with a tremendous migraine headache thinking about all the diet plans out there to pick from? I know I have quite often. There's keto, there's paleo, there's low carb, there's vegan, there's vegetarian, there's Mediterranean, there's a new one every single day. How are you supposed to know which one is the best for you? They all claim to have experts behind them. How do we figure this out? Well, my name's Christine Garrison, and I'm a health coach, and I help the 50 plus crowd get their health and energy back so they can get out and enjoy their life. And that is what I'm going to be talking about today in this Facebook Live. Is which diet plan could possibly be the best. We're going to dive into some research, 2 research studies and a book to try to figure that out. And my goal is to try to give you some practical, useful information to be able to make your own decision and decide what might be the best one for you. Now, before we get started in the research part of it, I do want to just give an explanation or a qualifier. When I am talking about diet plans, I mean diet as a philosophy, not necessarily a diet as somebody is going on a diet or off of a diet. So vegan, for example, the diet philosophy is they don't eat animal products. Okay. Now, a vegan can eat lots of fruits and vegetables and whole grains and nuts and seeds and have healthy food, or they could eat Oreos and Doritos because that is vegan also. So I'm not talking about necessarily specific foods. I'm talking of philosophy. So vegan, no animal products. Keto, they eat probably usually around 70% fat in their diet. So that's the philosophy, not a diet program that somebody starts and then stops after they've lost 15 pounds and they're done with it. Okay, so let's dive into the research. First thing you should know is researching diets is very difficult. It is not an easy thing to do. A lot of diet studies are only done for a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, occasionally a year. Sometimes you get them for longer, but when you get them for longer, there's so many variables to control and people to control, and you can't control people, oddly enough. It's very difficult to know, are they actually following that diet? Are they just saying they're following that diet? So there's lots and lots and lots of difficulty with researching diets. And if you follow any kind of diet philosophy, or if you watch any of these diet wars, everybody's got experts, right? So the vegan community, they've got plenty of researchers and professors and doctors and all scientists doing studies, conducting studies, producing their research, showing amazing results. On the other hand, you've got keto and low carb scientists, researchers, doctors doing the exact same thing. And they all fight with each other, right? No, your study is not good because of this. No, your study is not good because of that. So we as people watching all of this are kind of, I feel like we're left to sit there and go, I don't know who to believe. What does this mean to me as an individual? So hopefully I will give you an answer, or a better answer to that today, and hopefully give you some practical, useful information that you can use for your own life and figuring out what diet might be best for you. Okay, so the first diet that I'm going to discuss today is called Diet Fits. And you know what? I will probably write all this out once it posts in the description or something, and give you so you can look up these diets on PubMed yourself and look into them. But this was Diet Fits. Professor Christopher Gardner out of Stanford conducted this diet. I think it was 2018, so it's pretty recent. 1 year study, that's a big deal. A lot of these studies don't last for 1 year. So 2 groups, we have a healthy low fat group and a healthy low carb group. Healthy being the qualifier in both. All the participants, and there were several hundred people in this study group. So that's a large number also, that's very good. They were all went to sessions, I think once or twice a month, to learn what is healthy low fat, what is healthy low carb, and taught how to eat appropriately. So after 1 year, bottom line, what are the results? Who won this war, right? Was it the low fat or the low carb? I will read you exactly what the researcher said in the paper. The end result, ready? No significant difference in weight change between a healthy low fat versus a healthy low carbohydrate diet. Great. Nothing. They were right about the same. Both groups lost weight, not a statistically significant difference between the groups, and there you go. End of story. If you leave it at that, it's kind of boring, right? Doesn't really tell us anything. Who won? Nobody won. It was a tie. Okay, what I find most interesting about this study and why I'm including it is, I hope you can see this graph. I'm not sure, I don't have a little thing to see if this is showing up. So look at this graph. Hopefully right off the bat, and this is a graph of the study I was just mentioning that had, both groups were the same. So this is a visual representation, basically, of the results. So first thing, hopefully you notice, is these graphs kind of look like they could be almost mirror images of each other, right? This is the low-fat group. This is the low-carb group. And look at the graphs, they're about the same. So that's why the end result is, not really any difference, no big deal. But you can't really tell on here, but this whole graph, there's like lines, and each line is one individual person. So let's say we've got Bob down here on the low-fat diet, and if you're below the line, you're happy because that means you lost weight. If you're above the line, you gained weight on this diet. So Bob down here lost 25 pounds on low fat. Bob thinks this diet rocks. Ted, he gained 10 pounds on the low fat diet. He hates it, right? Same thing over here with low carb. Sally lost 25 pounds on low carb. Betty gained 10 pounds on low carb, right? So if you go and you ask these individual people what they thought of this particular study, low fat versus low carb, these individual people will have much different things to say about that. Even though the end result was, it's a tie, pretty much the same. So I find that fascinating, and that kind of leads me into the next study. The next one, let me get the name right. Okay, so this is, the study name is Personalized Nutrition by Prediction of Glycemic Response, a very fancy title. This was Zevi, I think it's pronounced right, et al. This was in 2015, so not that long ago, published in the journal Cell, which is a very prestigious journal. Again, I will include all these references in the description later. You can go look it up on PubMed. So the fascinating thing that I thought about this study, they had 800 people. That's significant. Not only did they have 800 people, they had 800 people that were wearing continuous glucose monitors. Now what that is, it's a little kind of a small device. They could wear it on their arm. I think you could wear it other places too, maybe stomach or something, different places. But it continuously tracks their blood glucose levels or their blood sugar. I'm going to say sugar or glucose interchangeably in this little talk here. So it tracks, they eat something and they can watch and see their blood sugar rise, or the researchers can watch and see their blood sugar rise, okay? So they had 800 people wearing these things. I didn't write down how long it went, but they also tested them with standardized meals. So they gave everybody, like at certain parts along the way in the study, everybody ate, say, the same breakfast. It was going to be a piece of toast with butter. And how did they react to that? Everybody had a banana, right? The same serving size of a banana. How did they react to that? So they had 800 different people to see their reactions. They also, which I love, tested their microbiome. Yay. And if you didn't see my last Facebook Live, I discussed the microbiome and fiber and all that sorts of stuff because it's super important in how we react and respond to food. So they did test the microbiome too. And they were testing this. Why were they testing blood sugar? Because how you react, how your blood sugar reacts to what you eat has very strong associations with disease risk, right? Type 2 diabetes, metabolic disorders, all sorts of things. So it's very important health marker. And in an ideal world, you have a nice steady gradual rise in your blood sugar after you eat a meal or after you have a food or something. Your blood sugar, you don't want a big spike and then a big dip. That's not what we're looking for. So you want a gradual rise, and then insulin comes in and takes it, gets that sugar out of the bloodstream into the muscle, and then it comes down. That's the goal, what we're looking for. So they did all this. The end result of this study found, again, I'm going to read it specifically, a high variability. Oops, nope. I hopefully didn't just cancel that. I hit the wrong button. Hopefully everyone's still there. Okay. I'm reading the end result of the last study. So, a high variability in responses to identical meals, suggesting that universal dietary recommendations may have limited utility. Great. That means, we can't really make universal recommendations because different people respond differently. Great. What does that leave us with? So, two of the people involved in that study went on and wrote a book. And I'm going to show the book. Okay? The Personalized Diet. Great book. I thought, I will write this in the little description to give you the name. Don't feel like you need to write it down right now. So, Personalized Diet, and they kind of delve more deep into that study and gave some examples of people in the study. So a few particular examples that I found fascinating where they had two different people and they tested them with banana and a cookie. So person one, had a banana, had a modest rise in blood sugar, whatever, had a cookie, had a spike, came crashing down, as we would probably tend to suspect, right? But they had another person in this study, and I don't know how this person won some genetic lottery or something somewhere, but this person had a cookie and had no rise in blood sugar response to the cookie, whereas they had the banana and they shot up with the banana. Crazy. Not exactly what you would expect at all. And they had lots of examples like that. So they gave people pizza, right? Everybody had pizza. Well, the ranges for pizza was all the way down here to all the way up here. Some people could eat the pizza and not have very much of a blood sugar response at all, and other people went way off the charts. So that's some interesting information, and that's very personalized. That's why the title was Personalized Diet. So what these authors suggest in their book, their idea to figure this out for yourself, is because we can't all have continuous glucose monitors at least this point in time, is to test your own blood sugar at home. And you can do this. You can buy the kit off Amazon. It's not very expensive, $30-40, where you prick your finger, you put the little thing in there, and it tells you your blood glucose readout in a second. So they suggest that you do this, I think for a week or two, before a meal, 30 minutes after a meal, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, and 2 hours after a meal. So you can track it, and you can see, how do you react for this meal? How do you react for that food? And all this kind of stuff. So I thought, yeah, that sounds super fun to me. I'm going to do it. So I bought it, and I started testing, and I think I made it through 2 meals because you run out of fingers, right? So here's before a meal, 30 minutes after, 60, 90, 100, 2 hours. Next meal, you start running out of fingers, and while, yes, the little finger prick itself doesn't really hurt all that much, not that big of a deal, but when you keep doing it and you keep running out of fingers, your fingers ache and they start to get very sore. And so I stopped after 2 meals. So it was very interesting. I will occasionally do it now if I'm eating something different and, I wonder how my blood sugar is going to react to this. Now, they do, thankfully, have a backup plan for this. If you don't want to test your blood, which I don't really recommend you do, is you can very simply, very easily track your hunger levels. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being, not hungry, and 5 being starving to death, you track, you eat a meal, how hungry were you before you started eating, and then 1 hour, 2 hours, and 3 hours after that meal, what is your hunger level? And the thinking behind that is if you are eating something, or if you ate something at your last meal, whether it was a single food or a whole meal, that incredibly spikes your blood sugar, so it sends it way up. Well, when it comes crashing down, you start getting hungry again. So if you're noticing, and this is the practical, useful information for everybody, if you start noticing that an hour, 2 hours after you had something to eat or after a meal, you're hungry again, that could be something to look at for what was in that meal, what was that food. That may be having a very high blood sugar response to that. Ideally, you should be able to go 3 to 4 hours between meals without being hungry. that's, that would suggest a nice gradual rise and your blood sugar levels being kind of nice and stable and even. So that is something that you can easily track and start paying attention to see, well, maybe if I'm always starving after eating my breakfast, maybe if I switch out my breakfast to something else, maybe I'll have a better response and be able to go longer without being hungry. So besides that, some other general helpful information, I think, regarding all the different diet plans out there, they all do agree on some things. So there are some things they all say, yeah, we like that. So those things, probably not a big surprise: less processed food, right? Less sugar, big one. More veggies and fruits, generally, they all agree on that. And the fiber and the importance of fiber. So those are all things that they all say, yay, we like that. So that's nice. They all get along at some point. So really the takeaway here, I think, for you is to figure out what is the best diet for you. You have to figure out you and go by how you're responding and reacting to food. And are you able to go 3 to 4 hours between meals? That's a pretty good maybe sign of whatever you ate agrees with you, and whatever's in your microbiome agrees with that food. So hopefully you found this interesting. Please leave a comment or a question below. I will repost this on my Small Steps coaching page, my business page, and feel free to leave a comment even if you're not watching this live. I can go back and respond later. Also, feel free to share this post with friends or family. That'd be great. If you have any health topic or something that you would love for me to discuss in the future, please let me know. I would love to talk about what people find interesting. I find this fascinating. I realize maybe most other people may not, but hopefully you do. So that's all for today. So until next time, I'm Christine Garrison with Small Steps Coaching.